You might ask yourself, well, why should I care about justice? I mean, particularly in a philosophy course, as we come to the end of a semester where we've studied so many philosophies, where we've studied what it means to name ourselves, to say we are somebody, what it means to find a being outside of ourselves and declare whether or not that being is holy, what it means to identify another person and enter into relationship, what it means to have governance, what it means to have ethics, what it means to develop relationships. We have studied so many philosophies this semester. We've gone through so many different ideas. What good is another one? What is justice? And in fact, we may ask, well, don't those other things talk about justice? I mean, if you're talking about relationships with people, aren't you talking about justice? Why should we name it? Why does it matter? Well, I'm not sure I have an answer for that. I mean, justice is a big, big concept, and it's used in so many different ways. It is used to talk about how we find justice for somebody who has suffered through a crime. It is used to talk about how we act in ways that will change our world. It is used to talk about superhero teams and fighting evil. It is used to talk about law and legalities. There are so many. It is used in religion to talk about a just God. Why do we need to talk about justice when it is such a broad and vague concept? Well, it may be that we need this broad and this broad and vague concept in order to try to come to terms with something about what it means to live in a world with other people. We want to live in a world that is just. What do we mean by just? A world that is fair. A world that works for all the people. A world where people are not excluded, where they are not shut out, or if they are, that we have ways to remediate that. That we can fix our world because we know what is just, what should be just, and what we want to be just. You know, speaking of all those other philosophies we've done this semester, well, you know, ethics grow out of a sense of justice. And our beliefs about ourselves, who we are as an individual, grow out of our sense of justice. Our belief about others grow out of a sense of justice. Our belief about God grows out of a sense of justice. And our belief about governance and our relationships grows out of a sense of justice. And this is not to say that justice is the primary philosophy, but it is a very important idea within philosophy, even if we can't always name it. We encounter authors who try to name it, who try to figure out what it means when we say something is just, or what it means when we say something is unjust. And we're reading a couple of those, couple of the biggies. Rawls and Martha Nussbaum are both biggies in figuring out what justice means, particularly in the last part of the 20th century. I'm not going to jump too much into those theories right now. We're doing the reading. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. What I want to just ask is, well, why justice? I've got a little brother. He's a pain in the ass. I mean, he's not really a little brother anymore. We're both adults, right? We're both middle-aged adults. And really, he hasn't been my little brother for much of his life because the dude is massive. He's 6'4". He's a football player. He's a football coach now. He's a big guy. But he's also an asshole. Okay, he's not an asshole. He's just my little brother. And like brothers do, we would sometimes get in fights. And because he was my little brother, I had to teach him a few things about life, about how to relate with people. which meant sometimes I had to hit him. I'm not proud of it, but I did because he was my little brother. I didn't really have to hit him, and we didn't actually fight all that much. But having a brother makes us ask, well, why shouldn't I hit? What is just about hitting, or what is unjust about hitting? And let's just stick with why shouldn't I hit, rather than maybe there are reasons to hit. And I don't want to get into the whole pacifism argument right now. Let's just stick with why shouldn't I hit. Let's just put it on the table. We are going to have a rule: no hitting. What is the justice-based argument for that? What are the rationales? Well, we don't hit because Dad says don't hit. That's kind of a force outside of us that determines what is just. A God says don't hit, so we don't hit. We don't hit because we don't want to get hit ourselves. We don't want the person to hit us back. And that's a self-preservation notion of justice, that we need a just world that best allows us to be ourselves. We don't hit because the other person does not deserve to get hit. And that is a community or a community-based sense of justice, or a reciprocal-based sense of justice. What is done to another can be done to us. It really goes back to the golden rule. And then we might say, well, hitting isn't good for our family. It brings about conditions in our family that make us uncomfortable or make us violent. And that's a community sense of justice, that we do what's good for everybody. You can hear within these rationales some of the ideas of ethics that we have talked about already this semester. But these are also questions of what is just. It is unjust to hit my brother because of these reasons, or because of other reasons we might come up with. That's before hitting. What if I hit him? What if I know all these reasons? What if I know that he's a human being, an autonomous human being? I don't have a right to put my hands on him. I don't have a right to commit violence. When I commit violence, I'm breaking rule, or when I commit violence, I am disrupting the community. What if I still go ahead and do it? Well, then we also have some other questions of justice, and ethics don't quite answer these questions. How should I be punished? Or should I be punished? Does there need to be some kind of corrective action put upon me? If I don't get punished, or if I do get punished, how do I learn to change my behavior from that action? How do I learn to be more productive in the household? I'm more safe in the household? How do I become a part of what's going on in that household if I break a rule? How does my brother get vengeance for my hitting? How does he get satisfied that what I did was wrong? And then, as another continuation of that, how is he restored? How is his life made better as a result of my actions? What should be done to allow him to feel better? And then, how do we rebuild? We've had this act that violated our sense of justice. How do we rebuild? A philosophy of justice matters, so that we can discover what is fair and unfair, what is just or unjust, so that we can discover what makes our world, our society, our civilization, our governance, our relationships, our homes, what makes our world work in a fair and just way. And a philosophy of justice matters because it allows us to see ways to make it happen. We're once again facing a terrible tragedy in our society. a terrible instance of shocking violence. This one happening very close to home, very close to where you're sitting right now and where I'm sitting right now. So close, in fact, that one of my kids' friends' grandmothers lives next door to the school where it happened and is now having to live with my friend and their family because she's terrified. That shocking instance of violence showing up in a school, a place that is supposed to be safe, supposed to protect our children, supposed to teach them about things like justice in the world. And the betrayal that they experienced there, turned upside down by a sense of justice gone awry. I don't want to use just that situation to teach, but this is such a moment that we have to ask, where is justice in this situation? What were the conditions of justice that allowed this kid to have a gun? That allowed this kid to go so long without getting the kind of care that he needed? Where are the conditions of justice that set up a society where guns are so readily available that you can just go buy them on a Black Friday sale and keep it in your home the next day? Does that set us up with a just world? Here's one place where the theories of justice become important, because once we start asking those questions, some people will say, but I have my rights. I have a Second Amendment right that allows me to keep this gun. And you may well have that right. But is it just? A philosophy of justice allows us to apply thinking and analysis to situations before they happen, while they're happening, after they're happening, and declare, this is unjust. Or this could be just if we just change these things. Why should we care about a philosophy of justice? As horrible as that situation is that happened just a few days ago in Oxford, Michigan, a philosophy of justice allows us to regain a sense of our world, to cut through the chatter of politics, the ridiculousness of people who might at this moment say, but I love my gun. To cut through that chatter and say, there is a sense of justice, and that justice matters. Keep reading, keep thinking, keep trying to build a world that is just. And we'll talk to you next week.